Hello you lovely lot, my name is Max and welcome back to my YouTube channel and another Nottingham Forest tactics and transfers video. Today we're going to be talking about a rumoured move for 19-year-old Belgian youth international and Wolfsburg player Aster Vranckx, a player who is valued at around £10 million. We'll be discussing his meteoric rise to playing Champions League football last season, briefly about how he was deployed and how Wolfsburg played last season, and whether I think it would be a good deal or possibly someone we should look to avoid. So before we do that, don't forget to drop a like on this video and subscribe to the channel, ringing that notification bell so you don't miss a single tactics and transfers video or the return of the match previews coming to you in the next month or so. With that being said, let's start talking about Aster Vranckx and why I think we should maybe look at signing this guy. Aster Vranckx was born in Wolfsburg in the north of Belgium in 2002 and would spend time bouncing around the academy systems of his native country before settling in the academy of Mechelen in Antwerp. Apologies by the way for the pronunciations, Flemish is not my first language as you can probably tell. Vranckx would go on to make his first team debut in a 3-0 defeat to Belgian giants Genk, but he would not be deterred by this however, putting in some impressive performances that would earn him a big money move to Wolfsburg last season. And he would have a pretty impressive debut campaign in Germany last time out, making 28 League and Champions League appearances, scoring twice as Wolfsburg managed to finish in a disappointing 12th position. Despite the poor finish to the campaign, Vranckx had some decent performances under his belt for Wolfsburg last season, including displays in the Champions League. And I definitely think when you look under the hood at this player, there is something to be had there and somebody who could constitute some decent value in a few years' time. Now, when I was looking at this guy in depth for the script for this video, what really popped out to me was the defensive work that the guy does. Around 9 defensive actions per 90 minutes, very impressive for a central midfielder. And the ones where he really pops out of the defensive actions, he really pops out are for tackles and for blocks, where he ranks in the top 20 and 10% respectively for these two metrics for European midfielders. And in possession, he has also shown some decent potential, ranking in the top 5% of European central midfielders for dribbles completed and comfortably in the top half for both touches in the box and progressive passes received, suggesting he gets into some good areas. Where he really struggles is getting any kind of substance on the ball. He doesn't receive a lot of touches in his matches. He's not a volume passer, doesn't complete a lot of passes, and he doesn't complete passes with much intent or ones that really progress the play up the field. If you look at things like passes into the final third, passes into the penalty area, which central midfielders, elite central midfielders at least, usually rank pretty highly for, he ranks very, very lowly, bottom 25%, bottom 20% for a lot of these metrics. It is worth knowing though, this is from a very small sample size, only 1,500 minutes at the age of just 19 years old. You can't really read too much into this, but what you can read into it is that this is a player who works very, very hard. He's clearly a decent athlete, and technically there is a lot there. There's a lot of raw materials to construct a very exciting young player, as I smacked my microphone there. So like I said, there's a lot there to improve on in the future, and definitely a very talented player on the surface. So let's talk a bit about his Wolfsburg side and how he was deployed, and particularly how tactically they lined up last season. Wolfsburg have had a really turbulent time of things in the last year or so. They sacked their head coach Mark van Bommel in October of last year and haven't really been able to settle on a single consistent shape or formation for their team over the last season. They've played 4-2-3-1, they've played 4-3-3, and Vranckx has played pretty much every way you can imagine in central midfield, either deep or in a more advanced position. And when you look at the data for Wolfsburg, they're a bit of a slow, plodding side. They don't attack with much purpose. They're very low in terms of attacking speed in the Bundesliga, and they're also a side who rank pretty highly for passes per attacking sequence. They can tend to be a bit pedestrian when trying to get forward, and we saw that in Vranckx's numbers. He's someone who doesn't necessarily progress the ball that well, and there isn't a lot of that in that central midfield area for Wolfsburg, and they do rely on the wide areas quite a lot. Despite this, as a side, they actually press pretty well. They're in the top 5 or 6 teams in Germany for passes per defensive action at around 10 per 90 minutes, which is pretty decent, although a lot of these are coming in the defensive third. The defensive actions they're completing very much in the defensive third, a defensive press. And you can further see this in the fact that they don't complete a lot of high turnovers. These are pressures that lead to turning the ball over high up the pitch. Don't complete a lot of that despite how aggressive their press is. It tends to be in their own defensive third where they conduct a lot of their defensive work. The last thing I'll touch on with the side is that they're actually pretty decent from set plays, and Vranckx did take a few corners to them last season. They were a very good set play team. They took the most set piece shots in the German league last season and had the 3rd most goals from set pieces in Germany last season. So there is some positivity there, and as a player, maybe that's something he could bring to the side. Overall, there is a lot to like about Aster Vranckx. He's someone who's young, athletic, hard-working, and technically very sound. He completes a good amount of dribbles. That being said, I'm not sure what we'd actually be getting in him. Is he a defensive midfielder? Is he a box-to-box midfielder? Is he more of a deep-line playmaker? I'm not really sure what we're getting, and I think at 19 years old, I don't think anyone's really sure what they'd be getting in the player. There's the raw materials for a very good player. It's just a case of whether Steve Cooper wants the task of developing that player or having someone come into the side like a Lewis O'Brien or a Marcus Tavernier who's a bit more established than what they actually are as a player. The last thing I'll say is that it has been a difficult last 12 months for Aster Vranckx, moving to another country at such a young age, playing for such a high profile side who've had such a poor season, all things considered. He's still put in some decent performances, and like I said, there's the raw materials of a very talented player. I do see this potentially as a luxury signing, the kind of player who, when we've got all our deals done and over the line in a first team and a decent bench constructed, maybe we look at bringing in later this summer. But as of right now, I think there's maybe other pressing issues and more better equipped players to deal with those issues in the squad at the moment. Of course, let me know what you think of Aster Vranckx in that comment section down below after what I've presented to you today. Like I mentioned, I think he'd be a decent signing. I think he's got a lot to offer to this team. I'm just not quite sure what he will end up being and whether we actually need that kind of a player in our squad. I think the age thing is a bit of an issue for me, but again, I could be proven wrong. Young players have come into our side and done very well in the past. And of course, whilst you're down there, don't forget to drop a like on this video and subscribe to the channel, ring in the notification bell so you don't miss the tactics and transfers videos, as well as the return of the match previews in the next month or so. And with that being said, thank you so much for watching, Reg. Enjoy the rest of your day. I will catch you later.